And welcome to the morning brief right here on Channels TV. We are broadcasting live from our global headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Kelly Egiga.
Well, it's Wednesday, right, Kelly? The 19th of August, 2026. I got the dates right today.
Absolutely correct.
What a sigh of relief. Welcome, by the way, to your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Jeffrey Ozoma. Just to announce to you, the floodgates of campaigns are officially open. Guys, what are you tracking?
Yeah, I think that's it. Basically, the accord the peace accord signing yesterday in the nation's capital, where we saw some of the candidates, put a signature and showing that, as we begin our campaigns, everything is going to be peaceful as we try to make our case, try to drive why we need to be voted for. We're going to do this peacefully. Some would say it's just a tradition, it's just a convention, because in the reality, beyond the ceremony, a lot of things always get to play out. They signed this, for instance, in Osun State, for instance, where it was signed, and then we still saw violence. Violence takes center stage in the build up to the elections in Osun State. So those who just say, no, this is just a convention, this is just a tradition. But some will say, you know what, because our democracy is really fragile, we have to keep going through that route to ensure that we keep on with that journey to get to that level. So, but there are questions as to why, for instance, the presidential candidate of the APC was missing in action, Mr. President Bola Tinubu. I would have thought that this would have perhaps been a follow-up to what played out in Osun State for you to take advantage of and indeed lead the way into 2027, letting Nigerians know that, you know what, you and the APC, you're also ready for peace, as well as these campaigns intensify in the next coming months. Yes, the SGF was there. George Akume, the APC national chairman, was there as well, and some other APC. I think I saw the deputy Senate President, yes, was also there as well, and some other APC stalwarts. But we would have thought that you should have been there. Again, too, the presidential candidate of the ADC, His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, was also missing in action yesterday. Why, Mr. Atiku? Because these two, I think, would have been essential for you to be a part of. I understand it's a process, maybe a three-stage process, so maybe in the coming, when we have this event again, maybe you'd make yourself available, but this event happened in the nation's capital, and both Mr. President and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, I want to believe, are right there at the center of the nation's capital. So I'm a bit disappointed they were not able to perhaps lead the way, and then of course shout out to the NDC presidential candidate who was there, Mr. Peter Obi. Showore also made some sort of comments about the signing, saying I think he's trying to propose some sort of justice signing where if we he's trying to suggest that if we sign and in virtually your party breaks that peace accord, then there should be some sort of punishment or sanction but those are his opinions anyway, some would say. But I think basically for me those were the major takeaways, so long as the national peace signing accord peace what's it called again? Peace accord signing. I'm confused now, tempted to say accord party in Osun State.
Indeed, it was, unmistakable that Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces was absent, though he was represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, and the presidential candidate of the ADC, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, was also absent, from that peace signing. And so it's important to ask the African Democratic Congress, to explain his absence, and he wasn't, represented in that capacity at that peace signing. And so it is as a result of that the presidential candidate of the AAC, Mr. Showore, is saying even if a representative was sent, it means that, whatever commitments that we're making to that peace accord will not be binding on those candidates, and it may result in certain unwholesome fallouts as the campaigns now begin. Perhaps it is the reason that we should also be listening to some of the pointers, or if you like, the directions that the peace accord will be taking. And that's why the promoters of the Accord are letting us understand that the commitments are anchored actually on portions of the electoral law which attract punitive sanctions should the peace accord be abused. But Kelly, you are right on the money when you say that peace accords have been signed in the past, but there have been abuses of this accord. For instance, the Osun election, where we're counting the numbers of people that have paid the ultimate price ahead of that particular election. And so what is the essence of the peace accord? But I did also note, Kelly, that, Reverend Father Matthew Kuka, of the Kuka Center, was also saying at the pre-election conference that Nigerians should not look at this process, as though it were not significant, that they should hold those who put their signatures to the peace accord to account. And so that is a significant part. And that brings to mind just how important the people are to the electoral process. And some of the, fallouts of this electoral process have been calls on Nigerians to test the process, just as the people of Osun have tested the process. One of the things that I noted, that came from the founder of the Athena Center and, a former minister, Mr. Osita Chidoka, is that, look, politicians do not want people to come out in record numbers. And we've seen out of 2.3 million people in Osun, over 1 million people came out to vote. Can politicians, really decide to induce voters, with those numbers? For instance, look at, if you did the multiplication, 20,000 naira per vote, times 700,000 people, for instance, that will be a whole lot, to commit to voter inducement. And so if Nigerians came out, in large numbers to commit to the electoral process and ensure that the votes turned their way, then perhaps, a new era may have begun with the electoral process. And it's the same with the peace accord. If Nigerians were resolute in their demand for, a commitment, not in word now, but in action to the peace accord, perhaps we'll now be seeing, a different, turnout in the campaigns as the peace accord committee, the National Peace Committee, demands issue-based campaign from Nigerian politicians.
Lower your expectations, guys. When it comes to this peace accord, the people who are promoting the peace accord, distinguished Nigerians, they have done their part to ensure that everyone who is on the ballot respects the rule of law, respects our common wealth, respect everything we signed up for as a nation via the Constitution. And most of the time, we don't see these people commit to the things they signed up for. For instance, I don't know, the document, I'm sure it talks about candidates, not parties. So sending a representation for signing peace accord, I think is disrespect to the organizers of this peace accord, because I don't think it's a political party. I'll need to check that out. But if it's individuals that are supposed to sign, whoever did not come shouldn't have even sent a representative. That's the truth, because it's not Akume or whoever Elijah Tukobaka will send that is going to be on the ballot. It is these individuals via the parties that will be on the ballot. But of bigger interest to me, guys, this is very important because it's a sequence of signing that will be done. So we're still expecting more to be done in the coming days. Yes, so it's what has played out from comments from former President Goodluck Jonathan as well as Nyesom Wike. So let's begin with Nyesom Wike. So the fact is that APC, let's nobody deceive anyone. APC went all out to win this election in Osun State, and they lost. That is the truth. They wanted to win, but they lost. But I can also discard the fact that Nyesom Wike said if they wanted to use federal might, because he's seen what federal might is in 2019 in Rivers State. If they wanted to use federal might, they could have used federal might to upturn the will of the people, and we'll all be shouting. And when he said if they wanted to use federal might, maybe the president would have sent him, and it would have been different. I don't know what he meant by different would be the margin of lead wouldn't have been this much, or outright victory for the APC. That means, are you talking about you're going to rig the election? because that's what the interpretation is, because the Osun people came out to decide who they want to lead them. They decided on Adumala Adeleke, and so if you say it would have been the other way around, you are saying you would have helped the president or the APC rig the election. So you need to be clear, because people are quoting him to say if he went there, the APC would have won the election. That is not exactly how he said it. He said if the federal government wanted to use federal might to go there, it would have been different. That if federal government wanted to do that, the president would have maybe sent him, and the governor knows it would have been different. So is it that Nyesom Wike would have gone to rig the election on behalf of the APC? That question is left for him to answer. But the APC, Osun people have decided for the accord. APC lost. What I think is going on is the fact that maybe it was a divided federal might, with the presidential yes men going there to say, President, we can do this on our own. And I kind of suspect the person is giving a jab to. I'm not going to call names.
But Jeffrey, we should be asking the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory what his definition of federal might would be within the context of how the elections in Osun State were carried out.
Bukola, I will help you.
11 governors were deployed.
Bukola, I will help you.
Look at what transpired in Osun State ahead of the elections. Apart from that, we saw, the national chairman of the party, also in Osun State. Look at all the senators, all the governors that went to campaign.
So, Bukola, there are two parts.
For the candidate of the APC in that state. So what else is the definition of federal might? Federal
might is deploying police, army, everybody to make sure the ruling party wins by every means necessary. That is what he's saying, that they did not go for by every means necessary. That is his own definition. Davido is even saying they spent as much as 100 billion. We don't know the amount.
60 billion.
No, he said 100 billion.
Okay.
He said 100 billion. So that says 60 billion. So you see the billions of naira. So what I feel happened with the APC is that maybe not everybody agreed to go with this federal might, but some people said we can pull it off on our own. And they went with the divided, maybe not full federal might, I don't know.
Half a federal might, maybe a quarter federal might.
But we must give kudos to the people of Osun State who say, I don't care what you're coming with, I don't care about your money. In fact, we'll collect that money and vote for whatever party of our choice. And they did what they had to do. But what I'm trying to draw out in this is that what Nyesom Wike has said is what Nigerian politics is about. So anyone who is getting involved in politics must realize that people do everything necessary, including illegal things, to upturn and subvert the will of the people. All right. So whether you're hearing it indirectly or directly, you may hate him or like him, but he has said what he has said because he's been there when federal might came, and he knows what federal might can do. So if you're sitting pretty thinking anyone is going to just let you have power, then you're not ready for power game. The power game is a different game. Are we going to say that's the standard? What it speaks to, guys, is the fact that our institutions are not independent. Police can be used, army can be used, INEC can be used to subvert the will of the people if the people in power want it done that way. And all of us will go to court and be arguing about who brought what and who did not do what. But I think the lesson here is we must grow beyond these kinds of politics. That it is a combat of ideas and policy alternatives that should win and sway the heart of the people to decide which party they should vote for, not using institutions of state to be able to win an election. I think it's shameful, it's disgraceful, and it's not acceptable.
I think we should also be highlighting that, those comments are a total disregard of the will of the people.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, if the people of Osun State wanted to vote in Bola Oyebamiji, the candidate of the APC, they reserve the right to do so without any influence, without any deployment of federal might to subvert their will or to alter what their will would have been. If they wanted to vote the candidate of the ADC, the Osun people reserve the right to do so. And this brings in the comment of former President Goodluck Jonathan, who is expressing the presence of governors at elections, and he pointed out Osun, where the just concluded off-cycle election. He pointed out Ekiti and Ondo, and his former president has earned the right to express such concern because of his own conduct during the last election, where we saw former President late Muhammadu Buhari emerged victorious, he said no political ambition is worth, his own ambition is not worth, the blood of any Nigerian, and he's earned the right to do so because he towed the path of peace. And so we should also be looking to politicians with such rhetoric as those that would lead, the country, not comments that are a total disregard for the will of the people.
All right. It's a careless statement to make. Jeff says we should lower our expectations of politicians. But I think it's a very, very careless statement to make, again, from the FCT minister. So months ago, it was him threatening some journalists that if he had opportunity, he would have shot Sharon some months back. And here he is, he is again at it. I think it's a very careless statement to make. We have not recovered from all his fair in politics. We have not recovered from Francis Fadoris's comments, and there we are again with this comments from the FCT minister. But we're totally out of time on this segment, so let's switch gears and get to see what the papers are saying this morning. Please stay with us.